go.
I said, coffee, as in, I really need coffee.
Come enjoy some games with me. Coffee's almost ready, I've got the kettle on. Coffee keeps me sane, it keeps me going all day long. Pull a seat and stay a while, the fun's about to start. Hogwarts, Chibis, Slytherin, the stream's got lots to bring you in. Werewolves, zombies, ghosts, let's go. All the things I like the most. Welcome to the stream, I hope you like to hear me scream. Giveaways, jelly beans, condiment shots. Lots of crazy and chaos, it's fun all around. Baby might start crying, and then I'll be right back. Once he's good, we'll start again and have a little chat. Solo games or community night. Streaming's what I love, making friends, a community for all misunderstood. Welcome to the stream, I hope you like to hear me scream. Giveaways, jelly beans, condiment shots. Lots of crazy and chaos, it's fun all around.
Pull the lever, Kronk.
And then I'll be right back. Once he's good, we'll start again and have a little chat. Solo games or community night. Streaming's what I love, making friends, a community for all misunderstood. Welcome to the stream, I hope you like to hear me scream. Giveaways, jelly beans, condiment shots. Lots of crazy and chaos, it's fun all around. Horror games on repeat, dicks burping to chat. If you want to play with me, just whisper and relax. Sticks for crates to get me killed, the fun has just begun. Would you like to stay a while? Tell me about your style. Welcome to the stream, I hope you like to hear me screams. Coffee set, water's good, the games are all on. Lots of crazy and chaos, it's time to start, let's go. Hot mess, CC, welcome to my stream. Let's have some fun, come enjoy some games with me. Coffee's almost ready, I've got the kettle on. Coffee keeps me sane, it keeps me going all day long. Pull a seat and stay a while, the fun's about to start. Hogwarts, Chibis, Slytherin, the stream's got lots to bring you in. Werewolves, zombies, ghosts, let's go. All the things I like the most. Welcome to the stream, I hope you like to hear me scream. Giveaways, jelly beans, condiment shots. Lots of crazy and chaos, it's fun all around. Baby might start crying, and then I'll be right back. Once he's good, we'll start again and have a little chat. Solo games or community night. Streaming's what I love, making friends, a community for all misunderstood. Welcome to the stream, I hope you like to hear me scream. Giveaways, jelly beans, condiment shots. Lots of crazy and chaos, it's fun all around. Baby might start crying, and then I'd be right back.
I'm like not ready
Once he's
yet,
good,
but
we'll
what the
start again
fuck,
and have a
Onyx?
little chat. Solo games or community night. Streaming's what I love, making friends, a community for all misunderstood. Welcome to the stream, I hope you like to hear me scream. Giveaways, jelly beans, condiment shots. Lots of crazy and chaos, it's fun all around. Horror games on repeat, dicks burping to chat. If you want to play with me, just whisper and relax. Sticks for crates to get me killed, the fun has just begun. Would you like to stay a while? Tell me about your style. Welcome to the stream, I hope you like to hear me screams. Coffee set, water's stream. Let's have some fun. Come enjoy some games with me. Coffee's almost ready. I've got the kettle on. Coffee keeps me sane. It keeps me going all day long. Pull a seat and stay a while. The fun's about to start. Hogwarts, Chibis, Slytherin. The stream's got lots to bring you in. Werewolves, zombies, ghosts, let's go. All the things I like the most. Welcome to the stream. I hope you like to hear me scream. Giveaways, jelly beans, condiment shots.
I don't know if I posted everywhere, but we're gonna do this. Welcome on in, guys. Happy Tuesday. My hair is bothering me. You're gonna see me playing with my hair a lot today, so I apologize.
Might start crying, and
What?
then I'll be right back. Once he's good,
Annoying
we'll
me.
start again and have
Okay,
a little
let's
chat.
get into this.
Solo
Let's go.
games, a
Let's
community
see here.
night.
Where's
Stream
my
is
just
what I love,
chatting?
making friends, a community for all.
One? No, this one? Ah, I did it. Hi, guys. Welcome on in. Hi, Spyro. Hi, Onyx. How are you guys? Hope you guys are having a great day. I think I'm so late that it's bad. Woo! That's the sound of the police. Whoop, whoop. Gotcha. I got you. Hopefully you guys heard that. Please tell me you heard that. If y'all didn't hear that, I'm gonna crash. I literally just made sure it was all set up. Nope. You didn't. Every single time, I swear. Every single time. As soon as I press start, it doesn't like it. Love your face. Can I come out of the basement yet? I don't know. That last one really scared me badly. Big scare. You're gonna give me a nosebleed again. It's gonna be like nosebleed number 4. So how's everybody's day going? I'm so late. I'm not looking, so don't yell at me. I'm not looking, but I fully expect there to be nobody here. I am so late. Who goes live like an hour late? Me. I do. And then no one's here because of it. I'm gonna make partner, and then I do these things. Hi, Spyro. All right. So today we're going to be doing some community games. I'm pretty excited about it. Hopefully you guys are too. I can't wait to spend time with you guys. And then after that, we're just going to have fun. You and we all expect it. What? You and we all expect it. What are we expecting? I was doing my nails today, and it's kind of sorry. What are you talking about, Onyx? I don't understand. Oh, I forgot to take my second dose of my pills. Hopefully I don't get a headache. With being late. Oh, I'm trying. No, I'm really trying to do better. I am. Because the thing is like with wanting to do these things, like make partner and whatnot, being late is actually really, really bad for me. Because... Is that better? I just have a black shirt on. I've gone through like 4 shirts today because these damn nosebleeds. You know, okay, like you ever watch like an anime? And you see like the kid, the boy who like likes this girl, and then he sees the girl or like she talks to him, and then like the boy gets a nosebleed, like it's like ah! That's how I feel. That is me today. Hi Mama Z. How are you, Mama Z? I hope you're having a great day. I'm just like that's the best way to put it though. Is like I don't even know why. Thank you for that. Being a bum, but yes, there's nothing wrong with having days of being a bum. Nothing wrong with it at all. Thank you, SK. Hi, SK. How are ya? I forgot what I was gonna say now.
Right.
Thank you
As
for
in,
collecting your coffee. I need to
coffee.
redo those. I think
Hi,
I
I'm
want to
new here.
change them. You're not new. Wait, did I cut out on that one? Let me know if I cut out when I do them. I have to make sure I get the volume just right for yelling at you guys. Because you're not new. I can't find my lipstick. And I'm actually really upset because I can't find the lipstick. I've really come to like this lipstick. I hate wearing lipstick texture. Ah! Why? Why did that scare me? Thank you, Onyx. With the Pidgeotron chicken ass. Okay, so we're going to continue all week with our wow brain. My brain just stopped. With our streaming anniversary. Oh, wait, I forgot to do that.
As in, I really need.
Hold, I have to give you guys the discount. Start discount? How could I forget? Cece, you're so rude. So mean.
Hi, I'm new here.
Okay, hold on. Who is that? You're kind of new, so I'm not yelling at you yet. But we're gonna see. We're gonna talk. We're gonna talk. Because you're not quite new, but you're not quite old. Happy affiliate anniversary. Let's go. Is Alan asleep joining you? I don't know. It's up to Alan. It's Kamuna Titty days. It's Kamuna Titty. So whoever wants to join is all the more welcome. All the more welcome. I do want to start with the weekly though. Because to me it looks like it's going to be an easy way to get some monies. And I have a feeling y'all are going to be killing me today. Just a hunch. Just feels right. How did I end up on this? Where did my quickies go? Quickies, come back! Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I broke it. Hi, Cushy.
Hi, I'm new
Welcome
here.
in. You're not new, Tasha. I lost my quickies. Okay, quickies is back. SCZ, don't yell at SK. He is new. Y'all. Spyro? Spyro? Hold on, that is too high. You're looking at my forehead. You're looking at my 5 head. Put it down. That better? Okay. Spyro? I have met SK in person. Not new. Not new. Almost a year ago now, actually. Not ready to die at 87x1 investigation. Right? I forgot to change my glasses. I am such a mess today. He is new to the stream then, but he's not. Okay, let's get in here. Let's do some games. I'm so excited and I'm running late, so I want to make sure I get to spend all the time with you guys as possible. It's not fair that if I don't. I want to be with y'all. I want to be with y'all. Woohoo! All right, here we go. All right. Who wants to play? Does anyone want to play, or is it just me talking to myself on this? Because that's kind of embarrassing. But would totally trek for me too. Like that would totally trek. You know what I'm saying? Like talking to myself. I'm not gonna lie. Like as somebody who does a lot of community games, that is probably like my number one fear. Like not like starting up stream and then no one's like, we don't want to play with you. You know? You know what I'm saying? I'm already nervous because I'm an hour late. Woo! I hear you! Got you! Beast. Boop, boop. I see you, Cushy! Cushy's on a 20 stream streak. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, so I have a question for you guys. I have multiple questions, actually. First question. What time do you guys prefer that I go on? Like, right now it's 1:04. Do you prefer it when I'm usually, like, 2 hours earlier, so I'm on at, like, 11:30 my time? Do you prefer 12 my time? Or do you like this 1 o'clock spot? I would like to know what you guys think, because moving forward, things are going to change again because of Karen starting school and stuff. Whenever you are ready, I don't have a problem. Aw. You guys are so sweet. I'm just trying to make sure, because I want to... I'll show you. I'll show you. I'll just show you guys what I've been working on. So I decided, right? I decided that I am putting myself through Twitch Workshop. Okay? There's no actually such thing as Twitch Workshop. It's just me being autistic, honestly, because I am. But it's okay. Uh, slightly early for me, so I'm not having to pick between stream and making dinner. Okay. For me, it's 23:05. So, and you just got out of work. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. So this is what I'm doing. I have this notebook right here. It says Twitch on it. Right inside the notebook, I am writing down everything. I'm writing down streaming goals. I'm writing down ideas for marketing. I'm writing down like different sponsors that I can look at, streams that go well, streams that don't go well. I've written down my, so I have like goals set. So like my like my goal is to make partner, right? But I also have goals per stream. And the goal that I keep setting every stream is, did I make viewers feel welcomed? Did I make you feel like you deserved, like that you had a place here in chat? Straight Gang, I see you. Woo! Boop, boop. Like, I'm trying to just make sure that you guys feel at home. I want you guys to come into the Messy Cafe, grab your drink, and feel comfortable. Whose bed is it? Oh, that's my daughter's. That's all. So I'm writing just everything down. I'm writing down all my analytics. When I said I'm not doing an official partner push, I'm not, but I'm going to learn the systems, if that makes sense. Like, I am very determined to pull a Mr. Beast and find out how Twitch runs and why. If that makes sense. I don't know if it'll help us hit partner before Thanksgiving or before TwitchCon, but that's my goal, is to find out why, to find out what I'm doing wrong. I'm watching the streams. I'm trying everything. I don't feel welcome because Onyx keeps shouting at me. Shouting me out. Oh, because Onyx was shouting you out? Twitch runs so Dan can make people uncomfy. Fair. Onyx, one brain. One brain, Onyx. One brain. Oh, I love you, Onyx. Guys, there's a wild guard chop in chat. Exclamation Pokey, check to see if you have it. And Pokey catch with the ball of your choosing. If you don't, find out. Grab that Pokemon. Okay, all right, we're gonna hop in here. I know I saw Tasha. I saw Tasha hopping on. SK, are you on? Are you up for a challenge, SK? Are you up for a challenge? Do you want to play and catch some ghosts with me? You feel welcome. I'm in wildfires again. Are you okay? Are you safe? You've been in more wildfires than I have, and I'm in California. I made it into a joke, but I'm not joking. I worry about you, sir. Where's my stuff? And then, I fully expect us to not have any more subs today. So I only have the one giveaway. Oh, wait. Let me make sure I press go. Let me make sure I pressed go. I just realized I was thinking about everything else and trying to go quickly because I felt so bad for being late. Hold on. Let me just get this, making sure I have this going, because that would be horrible. It logged me out. Guys, it logged me out. Why are you trying to kill me? All right. Wait. Why is it not working? There it goes. Okay. We have Tasha. Annoyed one. Tasha. Thank you so much for the gifted sub, Tasha. I am so my tushy gonna be, we're gonna be snatched. You guys say the please stream. I had 3 coffees. That's, I mean, it sounds like that's a lot for you, but it's really not for me. I'm gonna get timed out. You're not gonna get timed out. I love your face too much to time you out. I'm not doing that. Don't worry. But I will tell you to get your butt in here. Wait, where did I just had my paper open to write down giveaway names. Okay, here we go. All right, exclamation point enter to get yourself in the giveaway. I also, aren't you on Steam? Can't you just hop to fans? Hop me fans. Hi, Moo Moo. And then don't forget, guys, tomorrow is going to be a longer stream. So tomorrow's, because you didn't know you could do that with fast. Yeah! Hop the fence! Hop the fence, woman! So tomorrow is going to be a longer stream. We'll be doing a video that I've made for y'all. Let me whisper sweet nothings into your ear. Hi, Tasha. Ah, hi, Tasha. Your neck, so beautiful. Wait, come back! Come back! Thank you for the chicken attack! Moo Moo. It's Moo Moo, huh? Oh, gosh. One gifted. One sub. Tasha. Okay. Sorry, I was getting chicken attacked. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Wait, hello? Hello? Hold. I forgot what button I used. Can you hear me? Why do I have no microphone thing now? Wait, what is happening? Why do we have a high screen? Demon! Demon, thank you! Bitch. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Demon, for the 11 months! Almost a year. Let's go! Heck yeah, how are you today, Demon? Demon, do you want to come and play? I can't go back to her. In the voice of Gaga, illegal. I can't hear anything. Tasha! With the 4 gifted subbies. Spooky Chick, Modest Muffin, Cinnamon Roll, and Got Barbie Games. You guys were all gifted a sub. Say thank you. Happy affiliate anniversary. Thank you so much. I want to play Hop On In. Shy, let's go. Let me get the code. All right, we got. Okay, get this over to Shybug and get this over to Demon. I can't hear anything. Hi, Koala Chan. Demon, why isn't it letting me click your name? There we go. All right, you guys have been given the code Hop On In. Hop On In. I love this song. Every time you gift Tasha, I'm gonna shout you out. Tasha was the one that gifted. Let me write down Tasha's name. I'm over here dropping subs, haven't even checked in, bruh. Thank you, Tasha, for the 5 gifted subbies. I appreciate you loading in. Hold on, okay, of course these. Of course. Thank you so much, guys, for the hype train already. You guys are freaking amazing. So it's really weird that Twitch is very adamant that today is my anniversary. But I actually hit affiliate on August 5th. So I don't know if it's just telling you guys this for like 25 or like for 24 hours or something like that, because it's supposed to be tomorrow. I even made sure on the thing that it's tomorrow. Looney was in Arthur's stream yesterday having the. I love it. I love it. Let me go. Hi, Shy. Welcome on in. I kind of want to put my hair up. I'm hot. I'm hot today. What do you guys think? Hair up, hair down? Do I look like a troll if I put my hair up? Halfway up, half down? Half up, half down? Hi, Z! How's that look? Does that look bad? How are you today, Z? I hope you're having a great day. Why does it look like it's so far off to the side from my camera? Hold on. Whoa! Why are you guys seeing that? That's my name. Thank you for the shout out to Z. That was weird. Um, um, hello? Why are we doing that? No. Hold on, let me fix this one. Why did that do that? It's not even a video capture, it's the game capture. I don't know. I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Thank you so much. Okay, all right, are we good now? Yes, I can hear you. I got you. I can hear. I can hear. I can hear clearly now. Okay. It's still doing that. I can hear you. Can you guys hear me? Wait, am I muted? Okay. Wait. Oh, I was muted. Okay, now can you hear me? Yay! Okay, let's see here. Let me just switch this over quick. I feel like my camera is looking off to the side. Is that better? Is that better? Okay. I can hear you. It's the Verizon channel all over again. Oh my god. I hate how they switched the blocks on us. They switched the blocks. And it's so sad. Let me see here. I have to move this stuff over. I can't see chat now. Thank you so much, guys, for the level 2 hype train. I appreciate you guys so much. Seriously, I don't... Stop. I'm... Okay. I was just talking to Mama, and I have decided that it's not fair to you guys that I have made you guys my emotional roller coaster. So, what I mean by this is that I am no longer... Woo! I am streaking! Woo! Got you! Boop! I am no longer going to say bad things about myself. I'm going to try to be positive about myself. I'm going to be positive about hitting partner this year. I'm going to try to manifest this. And I'm not going to like argue back with you guys because it's not fair to you guys. Hi, Blage. Welcome on in. How are you today? Thank you for the offline follow, by the way. I typically have my followers as anonymous, but I saw that and I wanted to make sure I said thank you to you because that's a big deal. I like it. Like when you guys do things offline, I want to make sure that you guys have the attention that you guys deserve for it. Woo! Alpha with the 25 stream streak. Let's go. Woot woot. Thank you guys so much for the hype train and the streaks. Let's get into some gameplay. Now remember, we do still have yeah. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm unmuted. I tried to mute. I'm so sorry. Oh god. All right, let's play some map roulette. Everyone pick a map and then we'll go from there. And then I think we'll do maybe some whatchamacallit? Oh. Yeah, let me get this off. Sorry, my bad. All right, there we go. I think there we go. Okay. Sweet. Let's do it. I have to go for here. Yeah, we could do that. That's fine. Hi, Sky. Welcome on in. Sky, are you going to join me today? Alpha, are you going to join me today? Hi, Wolves. Welcome on in. Oh my god, Cece. Oh my god, Wolves. Currently playing fast, so I'll be lurking. Okie dokie. Thank you for the lurky turkeys. I appreciate you guys. I forgot what I was going to say now. I forgot. We're just going to have fun. Right? Felt. Who are we waiting for? Tasha! Tasha? I'm gonna lick you. Oh, I just licked your teeth. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I licked your teeth. I licked your teeth. I'm so sorry. Oh my god, there's a bunch of cuties here. I know, right, wolves? How are you today? I hope you're having a good day. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Ghost guessing is up and running. Get your guesses in. Exclamation point G guess or ghost to get your guess in. Remember, if you get it right, you get down your name on a plaque, which I have to update for last month because I haven't done it yet. And I keep touching my hair and I'm so sorry. Oh, hey, mama. I know, Z. I saw it and I was like, hey, hi, Mama Z. I'm so happy you guys are here. Thank you so much. Yes, so I am no longer I am no longer talking bad about myself. I'm not going to call myself under the troll under the bridge anymore or any of those other things. You guys are good. Not. I'm going to be positivititties. So I can yell at you if you do, right? Yeah. Yes, cuz okay, so I was doing a lot of research, right? Cuz see, I'm insane. I made a whole book on Twitch. My autism was twizzing, was tisming. My autism was tisming. My autism is tisming. And I have decided to learn how Twitch works down to the very like core. In hopes that we can make partner. Who hit CC on the head? I know. Hi, Gannon. Can I join you, Cece? Absolutely. Absolutely. Alpha, do exclamation point join to get yourself in the queue and exclamation point enter to get yourself in the giveaway, guys. Remember, we're doing giveaways all week. All right, we have Peter today. That means that we cannot have a granny, but we can have Naked Ned. Will we have Naked Ned? Yes, no, maybe so. Or Butcher Daddy. Oh, love me some Butcher Daddy and Naked Ned. All right. They're already in. I'm gonna head in myself. Let's see how are these games gonna go. What do you think? Who do you guys, who do you think is gonna join? Or who do you think is gonna die first? Who do you think is gonna die first? Tell me in chat. They can't hear me because they're in the house already. Who do you think is gonna die first? My bet, my bet is on Shy. I bet Shy. What do you guys think? I wasn't playing when I said you guys get to decide who lives or dies today. I was trying to make it a catchy title too. Do you guys feel like the title is catchy? Mama Z coming in with the join. What's the queue looking like? So far we have 3 people in. We just started. And then we have Alpha and Mama Z. So you are more than welcome to hop on in. It's going to be 3 games in, 3 games out. And I'm not going to try to get you guys killed. I am. I am going to try to get you guys killed. But it's going to be based off a chat. No, forget mine. Why? Oh, I want to play Mama Z. Okay, let's see here. Where do we think the ghost room is going to be? Okay. That's fair. I was looking at my viewers. That's fair. That's fair. What is creepy? What? Oop. What? Can you hear me now? Yeah, like it's underneath the floor. Ah! Where is it? Where? Where is it? Nice. Let's go. Okay, so that's our first piece of Evidante. Remember, friends, when we get the second piece, it will be closing time on ghost guessing. I almost said on student loans. Over on student loans? Yes, please. I always need to have a change of pants. You guys do that to me. I swear, every time. All right, guys. Wait, hold on. Guys in chat. Chat, I need your help right now. I need you. I need you. Put a 1 in chat if we get somebody killed. Put a 2 in chat if we let them live. You guys, it is your decision if people live or die. Hi, Topaz. Exclamation point enter for the giveaway and exclamation point join for the queue. 1, 2, 2. Okay, you guys are nice. You guys are nice to them today. I don't know how to turn this off. I see chat. You know what? 1. I wasn't joking when I put that as a title. You guys get to decide. Are you just letting chat pick? So yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I forgot to ask what the giveaway was for. Today is going to be a $5 gift card to Steam. This is going to be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to be the 5th gift card this week. Tomorrow we're going to be doing 3 merch giveaways because tomorrow's my actual anniversary. Oh, wait, did I get that? Did I get the writing? Hold. Hold! I got it. Woo! Oh. What? Not with Dad. No more after this, okay? I'm not giving you any more time. You better not kill me, Cece. I won't let you live it down. Like Z. Z is not gonna ever let me live it down. She's told me a million times. Me too, Z. To a Jin, I know. I have to go over to this side. It's not letting me see chat all the way up. I have no idea how to use Twitch on a phone. Oh no, why? What's happening? Where'd he go? Oh, I was muted. Where'd he go? Tasha! No. Yeah, Tasha! Another one bites the dust. And another one down, and another one down, and another one bites the dust. Boom, boom. Are you just, yeah, I already read that. Okay. I'm just making sure I'm not losing chat because I want to make sure you guys all know that I'm listening to you. Okay. Let me do that. Okay, let me come back over here. I don't know. I can't, OBS had an update today with the ATM and now I just see the viewership. Pantalones? Pantalones? Do you need a new pantalones? I need new pantalones. Ay, ay, ay. What water? I hear water. Wait, I hear water. I hear water. Hi. Is it Armin? Welcome on in. Bump, bump, bump. Another one bites the dust. And another one down. And another one down. And another one bites the dust. Bump, bump, bump. I'm sorry, what? No thank you. We're definitely not gonna have that in our chat. Why isn't that letting me? I'm sorry, what? Thank you. Thank you, Onyx. I was trying to figure out how to do it. I appreciate you. I'm dead. Yeah. Thank you guys. Mods spare him. Baby bye. Why? Excuse me? Okay, this is Thank you. Thank you, Babs. Welcome on in, Star Citizen. How are you today? Tasha. W soundboard, I know. Yeah, we don't. We do not tolerate that here. We are not going to have any type of hate here. No, thank you. This is a safe space for everyone to come and hang out. And we are not, absolutely not going to have any type of hate here. No, thank you. No, no. I was going to go after him. Guard dog. Guard dog mode. Guard dog mode activated. How do you okay, I'm assuming you play Star Citizen. Is that a good game? I have heard like some people said it's a really good game and then some people were like no, like stay away from it. So I'm really curious. What do you think about it? What is 921 squats? That's the amount of squats I have to do. So every time that we are gifted subs to the channel, I add 5 watts per sub. So that's actually off because yesterday these hooligans did 69 subs yesterday. Ooh, woo. So I have to add on my squats for that. Thank you so much for the follow, friend. Welcome on in. My name is Cece. For anyone who is new here, I hope you guys are having a absolutely amazing day. Okay, let's do this. So we've got 69 times 5. That's 345 plus 920 win. That's 12. Ay, ay, ay. That's a lot. Every time I get the squats down, you guys bring it back up. 1, 2, 6, 6. Wait, I put 2 twos. There we go. Squats has been updated. Saw the game comment and just wanted to yeet on the ban button. Thank you. Actually, I was ready for the first comment. I am not going to put up with any type of racist comments here. Oh, hail to the no. Hail to the no, no, no. No. I don't do that. I don't play with that stuff. That is absolutely disgusting. We're not doing that. And that actually, hold on. I want to see if I can report that to Twitch. Did it delete the messages? I did. Okay. Be a good human. Exactly. Literally, one of my absolute like rules is don't be a turd. Don't be a turd. Wait, what happened with the dude that got banned? I wasn't here. So he was an ass. Yeah, he was an ass. He was talking, he was like racist, question mark. And then he was like, your ass at the game. He was like, ass, your ass at the game. We're not. No. No. Absolutely not. And why would somebody do that? Why would somebody come in here like that? Do one more hunt because I'm gonna throw a bunch of shit. I don't know if it works for us. I thought you have to be alive. Oh, I'm throwing everything. Door is in my face. What is it? Well, we were kind of thinking a dildo gas, a dildo ghost. Dead players can throw objects. They can? I thought you had to be alive. I cut the snail too short. Yes, you can slow him down, Cece. Okay. All right, let's throw some things. Okay, I'm gonna try to come back from my mood because my mood is bad now. Yo, kid, when you gonna do the? It doesn't look like you did them. Well, thank you. Thank you for calling me fat. I appreciate it. Hey. And I bet you're the most fit person too. Guys, don't be a dildo ghost. Go, what the fuck is happening? Am I being... Right? Like, something is happening. Someone is sending over... Ay, ay, ay. Fine. Thing. Right? Look at him go. Okay, well, it's definitely not Naked Ned. It's definitely not Butchered Daddy. I want to ban someone. I haven't been able to do it forever. Oh, Tasha. Anytime someone ever comes in, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But holy mackerel, it definitely feels like we're getting, it feels like we're getting hate targeted right now. CC, new command to explain the rules if you haven't. What? Don't be a turd? I would think being a decent person is just a typical thing. Alright, guys, there's a Pokemon in chat. Exclamation Pokey check to see if you have it, and Pokey catch with the ball of your choosing if you don't. See if you could get that Pokemon. It's definitely a Myling. Maybe. Yeah, it definitely feels like it. Rules. Act like a dick and I'll make fun of yours. Onyx, I love you. Or... Oh, sorry guys, I forgot to end guessing. My bad. There we go. It was definitely a Myling. Good job, guys. Oh. You made yourself laugh so hard you need your inhaler. What's up, lady? How are you today, sweetie? Did you get paid? Can you eat? I'm just gonna be right back for a second.
I assume you bring a magician. Hi, magician.
I'm just gonna go for it.
And maybe Hood. Hi, Hood.
Okay. All right, let me take it out, and then I'm just gonna I'll be back in a second. What am I doing? Yeah. Thank you, Z. Thank you. I appreciate you. It's okay, guys. It's fine. I was just doing something, that's all. I'm here. Okay. Hi, Ty. Yeah, I'm good. I promise. I'm okay. I'm okay. I promise. All right, let's get this games going again, okay? All right. Are you guys? Wait, am I muted? I am. Are you guys down to try some of the challenge mode? Let's do it. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. Wait, it was Camp Woodwood, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be fine. We're gonna do good. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have fun. We could get Manny's. No, you won't die. It's okay. Glad you're okay. I won't make you drag it out. They've been yeeted already. Yeah, they've been yeeted. More like in chat. I've been playing Band with Dicks. Oh my god. Izzy, don't worry about them. They are a bunch of dicks. Sorry for the word. The mods have a volcano are ready for sacrifices. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, we got Thomas Rook. Let's get ghost guessing up and running. Here's ghost guessing, exclamation point, G, guess or ghost to get your ghost guesses in. And then we have Naked Ned. Will we have him? Let's go. I hope so. I could use some good Naked Ned. Ty. I'm fine, guys. I promise. I'm fine. Oops, wrong button. I'm just turning viewership off. Okay. Hi, Hell. Okay, let's go back to this. Okay, perfect. Okay. How are you, Hell? Thank you for collecting your copy, Ty. Been chilling here for a minute. How's fast? It's alright. We've only gotten to one game so far. I was super late today. The kids have been acting up like crazy. Alright, get your ghost guesses in, guys. Exclamation point G, guess or ghost. Let's find out what we have. That's funny. There's no lighters and there's no smudges. I love it when they do that. They're like, here. Okay, go ahead, guys. Go ahead. Where's my phone? Hold on. I'll be right. 1 second. I know, right? Okay, let's get in here. Ooh, we're so slow. So slow. There it goes. Okay, so I did hear that some people are having issues with Gorbies on this map. Hopefully not. Hopefully not us. But that's what I did hear. Alright, let's see here. Okay, let's keep looking. That's broken. So we've got no generator either. Okay. Honestly, I need to walk around with the camera to find the boner. I'm having apple pie regret right now. It's pushed my stomach into a flare. Onyx, why do you do this to yourself? The bone is where? I got lost in a tent. I'm at my PC watch now. I had a nice meal with Ma. Oh, how was it? Hope you're okay though. A flare, yeah. She made Russian traditional salad, and we had some fish and sandwiches. Ooh, that sounds good. I had ramen for the night. Best thing ever. I love ramen. Like actual ramen, or like top ramen. My kids love it when I make actual ramen. Like I do like the whole like the broth, and like I do the veggies, I do the meat, I do the whole shabam, and they like it. Hot ramen. That's like my daughter's been eating a lot of Budok ramen lately. My older daughter. Where? Over here. I was over here too. I want to make ramen tomorrow. Sorry. I got stuck. Okay, there's that. EMF. Did you said wait, oh, I was muted. Did you say we had EMF 5 or just EMF? Okay. Woo! Guys, that means we have 2 evidence. Get your ghost guesses in right now. We have EMF 5 and we have ghost writing. That means we can have a Dildogast, a Myling, a Sade, or a Spirit. What do you think we're gonna have? I had stir-fried egg noodles with Spam for my dinner. I don't like Spam. I've never liked Spam. Sorry. It's just not my cup of tea. Thank you for getting your ghost guesses in. Okay, let me get that ended. Oops, wrong button. That shows my name. Stop doing that. Okay, guessing. I like can't think of how to do anything now. My brain is having a brain fart. My brain needs coffee. Coffee to stimulate the brain. Okay. So a Dillagast, a Myling, a Sade, or a Spirit. Definitely don't think it's a Sade because it seems to be doing things while we're in the room. Okay, so a Spirit would check out. Dildagast would be fun. Hi, Chaos. Welcome on in. How are you today? A Shady. You want it to be a Shady? I don't know. I don't know. I do want to look at one thing really quick if you guys don't mind. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. I just have a feeling about something. I just want to check quick. Okay. Sorry, I was just trying to I thought it was something. Drago Spider-Man? Ooh, that sounds fun. Okay, sorry guys. I'm here. Hi, lady. Ah! My rude! Rude! Did someone die? I don't think so. How you doing, lady? Yeah, it's just an event. We're good. We're good. Did we get did we get the last piece of evidence? It's a Dildergast! There's a dildo ring. Yes, you can have that. Okay, so now we have to throw 30 things. Dirty 30, let's go. Yeah, let's do this. There's enough stuff here. Yes, I would have guessed Dilly if I wasn't trying to process what's happened. What happened? What happened? Wait, I missed it. What happened? Hi, Gaga. Would you like to come and play too, Gaga? Thank you, Gaga. Gag! Oh, wait. Hold. Gaga's here. You know what that means. Hold on, let me find it quickly. Gaga. Just remember that I love you. Right, Gaga? Gaga, I love you. Yeah? Where is it? Hold on. I gotta find it. I put it somewhere. Let's see if it just works. I didn't hear it go off though. Wait, why didn't the sound go off? Yep, there it goes. I was like, wait, why was it so delayed though? It was so. Hello. Just gotta be faster than your friends. I'm not the faster one now. Out, Care Bear. Where is it? I don't even see him. Where is he? That's the sound of the police. Whoop, whoop. Got you. Whoop. Thank you for the stream streak chaos. I have to go over to the other one because this is not working. I'm sorry, Gaga. I'm sorry. What app do you use for commands on stream, not just in chat? I use both Firebot and StreamerBot. I use both of them. I love it so much. Me too. How could we not? How could we not love it? All right, sorry. I had to just check something else again. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like trying not to end stream. I had to check the stream because of the notification. Thank you. I'm glad. Who did that one? I owe you whoever did that. I owe crates. Of course it was Onyx. Sorry. All right, let me get Onyx some new crates. Here we go for Onyx. Thank you, Onyx, for getting me killed. I appreciate you. Oh, why is it showing everything over there? Hold on. What is happening with this? This is just supposed to be... Is that better? Let's see if that one is doing it. I don't know why it's showing everything like that for... It's supposed to be a game capture. It's still doing it. What the heck is happening? What was I doing? Oh yeah, give Onyx credits. Onyx? It's not a dildo ghost? How? We have the... I thought we have the evidence. Do we not have the right evidence? Do we not have the right evidence? I thought we had all the evidence. It's still fast. It changes every hunt. So you have to redo it every single hunt. Yeah, hold on 1 second. Let's try that and see if that... Is that working now? Okay, there we go. All good and ready whenever you have space. Okay, I think we have one more game. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit flustered.
Found a cruci, but my dumbass is the one that put the cruci down.
I'm also getting messages on Discord.
I took a picture of it once, and then it burned it again, and then me and Cece were throwing objects, and then it hunted, and we...
I was throwing shit too. That's why I was like, "There's like this shit's still fast as fuck."
I think I'm just gonna turn off my,
I'm
my
waiting for Cece to get
Discord
into
for
the
right
truck.
now.
She's in the truck.
He's dead.
Oh. I'm looking at her stream, and her stream is like...
No,
a little
it's
far behind.
popping off, Z. Okay, I just totally turned off Discord, and I'll deal with it later.
Welcome back. I've got some jobs ready for you.
You like cry because of the commissions? Aw, you deserve it. You deserve it, lady.
Cece,
Right,
I feel so sorry for you because you got jump scared as the ghost was chasing you.
Yeah, it happens. It's okay though, because that's what gives more people crates. If you get me killed, you get your crates. Okay. All right, so we have one more game, then we're gonna move on to the next group of people. Okay, guys.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, you have, lady. I appreciate you guys showing me that stuff. That sounds very concerning. Yeah. It's fine. Oh, sorry.
Carol.
Yeah, but what is a cursed object? We didn't find it last time.
Nobody guessed that one?
Jeebus.
Hi, Grumpy. Welcome on in. I guess it didn't work. What didn't work? Sorry. All right, let's go in, guys. Who do we have this time? Hold on. Let me come over here. Let me end the thing. We did not have Ned. We did not have Butcher Daddy, sadly. It says the ghost was... Oh, no. Did it do it again? All right, let me start up ghost guessing again. All right, exclamation point G guess. Oh, exclamation point G guess or ghost. Weird. Okay. Yeah, exclamation point G guess or ghost and get your ghost guesses in. Oh, okay. It should. All right, I'll have to talk to Grubbin about that. I'm late. I was napping with my 4-year-old. You're not late. You're not late. I want to nap too. The best birthday present ever is to make it feel stuff. Yeah, exactly. All right, we have Carol this time. That means we could have Granny. Who thinks we're going to have Granny? If we haven't had Ned, hopefully we'll at least have Granny, right? Why is that? It said it was open. Okay, hold on. What is happening here? Just... Okay. But, okay.
What? Well, we can't do that objective.
Cece, you're doing great. Take a deep breath. I know what you're talking about.
We can't get
but
the third.
you
We
and
can't
yourself
get
are better than
number
good enough. I agree.
3 done because it's...
Okay. All right, get your ghost guesses in, guys. Exclamation point G guess or ghost, and find out what this ghost is going to be. We're also looking for Granny. Will we have Granny? I hope so, because it's been a while. It's definitely been a while. And I would love to have them. Hi, Taxi! Woo! I see you! Whoop! Got you! Thank you for the stream streak, Grumpy. Cece is a cutie. I guess I'm a Cece. Hi, Sheffy. Hi, Sheffy. I miss your face, Sheffy. Alright, let's go find out what this ghost is. Because I'm Cece's same name. How are you, Jay Sheffy? How's Mrs. Sheffy? I had a Granny Galoo on Willow. Yes. I have a love-hate relationship with Galoos. Because it's so tasty. They're so tasty. And, go have a popsicle. Z, Gaga, and Cece are all heckin' cuties. Pass it on. You're a cutie. Alpha, you are also a cutie. See, I stopped myself. I didn't say no. I'm very afraid of demons and Cormoses. Okay, I'm going back over this way. Alright, I'm gonna try going back from OBS to make sure everything's good over here. Just because I got an error from OBS now. But if I miss anything in chat, please just refresh it and let me know, okay? Me, it's a poltergeist, especially with the ability. Mine's a Rev. Revs scare the crap out of me. I have my feet under Lily. Did we find the boner? Oh, did we find the boner?
Nope.
I
We
don't
have
think
not
so.
slurped the bone.
Welcome back, Cushy. Ah! Oh God! It's Pajama Pam! It's in your pants.
She got me!
Had to go to my store. My service sucks butt. So can't do anything. There.
So do we know what it is?
Nope. I can't see chat when I do
where it
this.
came from.
I'm very afraid of demons and Corvus. Okay. It came from Red Tent. That one we do know. It was definitely Red Tent. Phantom? My guess. Oh gosh. Here, it was like right here for sure.
we got
It started
footsies.
in the Red Tent. Yeah. We got footsie. We got UV. Let's go. Ah! I don't want to die! That time she started at Lover's Bench. Oh, 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 oh. Are those hands? They are hands. Let's see here. It's
See, we
definitely
lost
like right here.
another one.
Another one bites the dust. And another one down, and another one down, and another one bites the dust. Bump, bump, bump. The bones in the tent I died in. Oh, I'm gonna die! I'm gonna die!
No, I'm dead.
Oh, it does kind of
Nope,
look like a
I'm dead.
phantom. Guys, there was only one left standing. It was Cece. We were so... Should we go with the phantom, or shall we leave? Chat, you get to decide! Should we go with the phantom, or should we leave? You guys tell me. Are we hitting it, or are we quitting it? Oh, oh god, oh god, oh god. I'm hitting spacebar! I got the CC badge? What do you mean? Oh, yay, let's go! Do you guys like it? Ouch. We only had UV so far, but I definitely think... I definitely think it's a phantom. Go get the bone. Okay. Do you like the CC badge? There's that one, and then there's one for gifting. Yeah, there's one for gifting as well. The bone is in the tent that you died in. EMF 5? That would take away a phantom. I did not see that ghost, though. Right? It looked super... Wait, hold? That's no dead body here. Tasha, chill out, girl. Oh. Tasha. I found the bone. It's a bone. I know, right? Every time I do some of the squats, they've been adding more squats. Hi. I'm gonna go with Myling. I'm just gonna go with Myling. That seems right. I don't know, but that seems right. It was like a loo? Oh
Yeah,
god.
Yeah, we were watching her as she literally targeted every single one of us, and then she only stepped in one salt, and we're like, yeah, it's
Thank
a
you,
gal.
Alpha. Thank you, Alpha.
But it
Alright,
doesn't
thank you
matter.
guys.
I'm only at $9,000 right now. It's okay.
Alright, we're gonna move into the next group. So thank you so much. I appreciate you guys playing. I'm sorry I
You're
wasn't a better
welcome.
host.
Bye. It's a
Bye.
CC.
How do I get my CC badge? Well, there's one, the one that Z has, that's from watching for 4 hours this entire week. And then the other one that is Messy is from gifting 4 subs. So anytime you gift 4 subs here this week, you get the Messy badge. And then if you watch for 4 hours, you get me. I just prestiged 2 days ago. It sucks using, I know. All right, so... I love that one. Fuck them, go lose. Sheffy. Hi, Birdie. Okay, so who is next in the queue? I know it was Alpha, right? Let's get Alpha in here, and then I believe Sky, and then Mama Z. Did you want to play or no? I had fun. No, thank you for playing. I'm sorry, my mood is not okay. And then Topaz, come on in, Topaz. Let me get you guys the code. Why is it letting me whisper you, Topaz? There you go. I hope you're having a good evening. I'm trying to. It's honestly, we had some people come in earlier who were not very nice. And I'm trying to not let it bother me. Do you know if it shows up as a normal drops yet? No, it will. I actually don't know. I don't know, actually. It's currently 4:10. Is it bedtime? I mean, here it's 2:10 and it feels like bedtime. Screw them. Yeah. I'm gonna crash out. Why, Tasha? I have the beard. Let's go. Okay, and then I need Alpha and Sky. Hi, Sky. I'm whispering it to you right now. I'm so happy we get to play because I owe you guys. Because you're mods. Oh, are they shouting you out? Today has not been fun. I think I'm getting sick. Oh no. If you ain't gonna be nice, you can leave. Exactly. Hey, no more F-bombs. Chat, we were attempting to be 13. Thank you, Mama. I love you. Alpha, where are you? Where are you? There we are. Thank you for collecting your coffee, Vixen. How are you today? I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope your day has been good. Hey, look at your gen to see the video I just posted. At your gen? I shut down Discord. I turned it off. If it's on Discord. I'm just taking a second on that. I'll do it later. Very tired, but thanks for asking, doll. Hope you're good. I'm alright. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here, Vixen. Whoa. Whoa!
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Cece.
Hi. Don't look at what I'm doing.
Oh my gosh. Personal space, Cece.
I don't know what that is! Can I get it in the ear? Ear, how do I... Oh! I wasn't doing nothing! I'm not suspicious! I was behaving! I promise!
You sure about that?
I mean... Pick me a winner! Yes, guys, don't
Cece?
forget we're having another giveaway today. Yes, Guy?
Cece,
Yes, Guy?
this blue ball for you.
Ah! My balls! Take them. Thank you. I appreciate that. Cece, stop letting people snip
And-
your hand.
And
I just want to pick
and
the nose.
two big balls for me and Alpha.
Exclamation point enter, guys, to get yourselves in the giveaway for today. We are doing a giveaway every single day this week for our 2 years of streaming. And I'm so happy to be able to spend this time with y'all. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here. So thank you so much, guys. I started streaming again, so I'm redeeming this. Let's go, Grumpy. Let's go.
Alpha, don't forget what I told you about the custom. Sanity restoration is a myth.
Okay.
All right, let's do a drop. We're going to do a drop, and then we'll let people pick where we're going this time. All right, exclamation point, drop it like it's hot. If you land in my pool, you get to pick our map. I see.
Look, I'm giving a
I
hug
see.
to Cece.
I see your nails. I see your nails. I see your nails, Sky. Sky, you have nails. I can't hear anything. Is there a giveaway? Yes, there's a giveaway.
Ma'am,
Yes.
I just did my manicure. You like them?
Me too. I didn't get to finish mine though. Oh God! Of course, the
Well-
pie in the face. If I die,
Yeah.
it's Z and CC's fault.
Of course it is. It's always your fault.
It is. I need to finish my nails. No one's allowed to look at them until I'm done. All right, let's see here. Cushy landed in the pool at 68.29. Cushy, where are we going? You get to decide our fate today, Cushy. That was rigged. Z's at the water park. Having fun. And a bathing suit. Grafton Farmhouse. Oh. Alright, everybody ready up.
Oh god, I love when High Grafton.
Grafton's fine. It's gonna be great. We love it here. Alright, I have viewership off. What is happening right now?
Oh, wonderful.
Someone is having issues with the connection, I guess.
That would be Topaz. My keyboard hates me. Your keyboard's fine. It's fine.
Nothing to report, but it looks like whoever was here left in a hurry.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
I don't know. I don't know Brendan. Brandine or Brandon? What is this?
We did have pajama Pam.
Brandon.
I think
It-
he's found things. All right, do we think we will have Ned? Let's go. Like lizard. Like a lizard. Like a lizard.
Grab a lantern.
Thank you, Spyro, for the lizard.
It will keep your sanity less drawing.
All right. Remember, since we do have a male ghost model, we cannot have a Banshee and we cannot have a Diane. So why is that not working? Wait, did I forget to do the actual ghost? Who did we have last time? I don't remember. I forgot already.
I think it was a
A
Dilbagab.
Galoo?
I think.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It's currently active.
I'm
What?
picking Sissy's nose.
Oh yeah, pick my nose. Pick my nose.
Whoa,
What is
CCG.
happening with this? Wait, hold on. Ghost guessing is like breaking. Because it's not letting me actually end or start anything. It's weird. Let me go over. I'm just gonna do a forced end on it and see if that works. Let's just try abort guessing. And then let's try starting. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right, exclamation point. Do you guess or ghost to get your ghost guesses in? I mean, what? Actually, wait! Don't pick my nose! Don't pick my nose! I'll get another bloody nose! Hide my nostrils!
Oh
Hide my
my god.
nostrils!
What is our custom?
Our
Well,
custom
it's
is fuck
pretty
around
much-
and find out.
Yeah,
Random?
pretty much.
No,
Yeah,
it's
CC's trying
basically,
to kill us.
it's Nightmare, but with 3 evidence. That's it. It's fine.
Yeah,
Wait,
three
man
evidences
down, why
and
did that not
and
work?
no sanity restoration.
Wait. No.
Wait, what is happening right now? I am hearing things, but I'm not seeing them. What is happening?
Maybe you hear me.
And you're supposed to have this. Wait, why does that not work for you? Hold on, hold on. Oh, maybe I gave it to your Phantom account. Hold on, let me just check. Don't put bananas in my butt. I've told you several times before. It's not a banana door.
door.
I said,
Okay.
don't
Oh
put
my
bananas
God.
in my butt. Don't put bananas in my butt.
God, why are you? Oh my god. You know what?
Okay.
I was
Man
slamming
down.
inside Sissy. Don't put bananas in my butt. Don't put
Man
bananas
down,
in
can you
my
please refresh your stream? What was a hamster or a guinea pig? I think it's a hamster. There you go. There you go, man down. I did it. It's okay. I'm going to be on that one in a minute anyways. I just switched it. Just switched it, man down. Aye. Okay, ghost guessing is working now. Man down has their VIP badge. Why am I being
in my butt?
slammed?
Don't put bananas
Don't put bananas
Well,
in my butt.
I'll
Is
give
it-
you a
is it-
banana.
In my butt.
Sissy, is it clamming if we don't have clams? I call it ball dipping.
I'm leaving. I quit. I'm done. I'm gone. Goodbye. I'm leaving here. Be on both. Okay. I just removed it from the other one. I mean, honestly, it makes sense to write it on this one because, you know, you did gift them on this one. Don't forget your there is no lighter. I didn't see a lighter. Wait, was there a lighter? Did I just miss it? I guess random a Maroi for Grumpy. Okay, I'm starting to feel a little bit more like myself, guys. I'm starting to feel more like myself. I'm coming into this. Yeah, there's no lighters. Did you get... Oh my gosh, hold on, guys. There's somebody here.
I have one lighter.
Hold on, somebody's here. Hold on, Lily. Hold on. Okay. Alright, I'm back. I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. And then this one. Okay. Okay, we're good. I swear. What is the point of having a no soliciting thing if they do it anyway? Right? I need like the one that's like, if you do solicit, then you owe me money.
Well, I don't have it, so.
Can I get money? Oh, I have to go over here. Oh, I didn't see that. That's dance chat. Yes, dance. Dance all the way, please. I need everything to cheer me up right now. You might have to do another one, too. Another one? Why? Why would I do another one, man down?
Where is that, upstairs?
I mean, I can. I got more. You guys got. I got more.
Where the...
I got more VIP badges. You guys have been so amazing. Who's going to win? Okay, who took the other lighter?
Alpha is,
Why do we have no lighters?
He doesn't know the old map.
A wild Eevee appears? Wait, Fluba's not here. Exclamation point Pokey check with the if you have it or not, and then Pokey catch with the ball of your choosing if you don't.
It's in the mannequin room.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. I'm done. Goodbye. I will be Van Princess. I'm not doing it. Motherfucker. What happened? You might have to go to the other account soon. Why? Are you okay? You're not getting banned or anything, right? Sorry! Wait, what? Please hunt! But what if it's Ned? Oh, that's true. It could be Ned. You're
Okay.
right.
Orbs
It's
in the
fine,
map.
I have a crucifix.
Yeah,
Wait, record it or...
It's not the
I-
ghost. It's not the ghost that scares me. It's the mannequins. You said we had ghost orbs?
Yeah, we'll have ghost
You're not
or-
getting it yet? No, I'm not. Generally, how does this app make billions and be this broken? What happened? Is it not working?
The spirit
I'm
box.
sorry. I'm sorry, Cushy.
You
Ah!
wanna do the spirit box?
Kirby! Kirby! I don't consent. I don't consent, Kirby! Gosh!
McCoy.
You have EMF5?
Oh,
Okay, so we
really?
have ghost orbs and EMF5. Ghost
Not
orbs.
Diane,
And,
Abaki or Raiju.
so it could be an Obake or a Ryu. Ooh, Cece, I think you're lagging. Am I? Am I lagging? I'm not seeing it on my end. It says everything is working fine. I don't... Oh, I have dropped frames, it says. That was scary. Okay, there we go. It says we're good again. All right, refresh. Refresh, refresh, refresh.
We have feet. Wanna
Okay.
see feet?
Refresh. Are we good? On my end, it's showing that we're good. I switched everything so that it's capped and everything. Hopefully it's fine.
Oh wait, that means we have you.
Is it okay?
So it's an Obake?
Yeah.
Yep.
Guys,
Feet.
am I working?
Feet.
Somebody's really low on sanity.
Looks good now? Okay. Oh gosh, that was scary. I can't do another one. Okay, let's go. I wanted to be no bake a cake. Alright guys, exclamation point. Do you guess our ghost? It's time to end ghost guessing. But what is happening right now? My book is freaking out. Do you guys see that? Oops, not start guessing.
No,
end
but
guessing.
I'm recording you. I'm recording you where you're talking. This is your.
There you
This is
go.
your MySpace video.
Oh my god, I heard MySpace is coming back. BRB gotta look for it's like 30 FPS right now. It's recording CC's OnlyFans. Let's go. Hold on 1 second. I'm just trying to fix it. It's really bad actually.
I recorded that.
Okay, let me try. All off. That's good. Okay, video. There, now that you walked out of the mannequin room. I mean, it is the app. I mean, yeah.
Okay. 23 more
Hmm.
minutes.
Sync is off. Let's turn this down to
why is
balance.
sanity
Let's do
destroyed?
performance.
California girls swear together, Daisy Duke speaking.
Let's just turn this stuff down and see if this is it. It should get out. It said no for that. All right, let's see here. Let's try that. And then let's put this down as well. Let's see if that helps. Does that seem like it's better? Is that better? I tell GC to stop taking up so much bandwidth. They're not even on anything. I made sure like they're not on the PlayStation or anything today.
Gotcha. Makes sense now.
Okay. So are we good now? All right, are we good? California ghost hunters are unforgettable. I actually did find a Tanglewood not far from my house. I found a Tanglewood Road. I was so surprised. Okay, let's see here. This is a little bit better. This feels better. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what was happening there for a second. DC, have you ever watched the show Lost? Not really. Not really.
Why are we
Die!
not surrounding her?
Did you guys get the last piece of evidence?
Are you guys okay?
Yeah.
Yes, I was trying to tell
Oh.
you feet.
Oh, feet! Yay! It's open!
And this
It's
is
no big,
Ring
okay?
Around the Rosie, my full of posy,
Alright,
Do
do
you
we-
wanna hear the Russian version of Bring Around the Rosie?
Do we want to go
Yeah,
in for a
sure.
perfect game or do we want to leave?
Карусель, карусель, начинает
I'm good to leave.
раскачиваться.
It's up to you guys.
Let's go.
The only thing in Russian I know is
I just want to get off this map for right now. I don't know
Красные
why.
очи.
My GPU isn't even like being used a lot or anything like that either. But it did say my frames dropped. I know OBS had an update today. You guys ready?
Well, I'm Bulgarian. So our
You earned a reward? Wait, what just happened? We all heard that. Heard what? Why do I have a reward? What is happening right now?
Oh no, I mean. that's
I'm
the
so
only thing I
confused.
know.
I'm just confused.
And maybe some more, some more.
I'm just
modern
confused
ones,
today.
like «Я не
There we go.
игрушка, твоя, любить так и
Oh gosh. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's go to the next
не
map.
пустой меня».
Is everyone in? Okay, did everyone go to the little girl's room? Oh well. Let's go.
Welcome back. Like prevention job to do.
I love it. I haven't gotten a bake a cake in a while. All right, let's try a smaller
Ooh,
map. and hope that my
11-11.
volumes don't drop. Let's try. I don't know, because it happened
we didn't
on
find the bone.
prison.
Ooh.
Why are you shattered, Onyx? What's wrong? What's wrong, Onyx?
Oh, Cece, you're treating me today. Prison? You know that's my favorite
Onyx,
map.
how are you?
We could go to prison. Do you want to go to prison? Come on, let's get handcuffed.
Really?
It's okay,
get
Topaz.
Go back to prison.
It's
Or
okay.
maybe the ghost
We'll
will
hold your
be in the
hand.
cafeteria the library, or
BRB, whiny
the
dog is
warden's
whiny.
office.
Belt. Belt. It's okay. Guys, I'll join later. I think I'm going to have a migraine attack. Oh no, take care of yourself. Spyro, please, please, please take care of yourself. I've been getting nosebleeds like crazy the past, well, from last night to now. Well, earlier. Not now, because I'm good right now. Right this second.
Alpha, remember what I told you about the big
I heard.
maps?
To pick your nose.
Remind me again.
I have to go back over to this other one. It's not letting me stop the predictions from this anymore. Oh, I've earned my own badge. That was no bake. The ghost guessing was close. Okay, well, let me do the actual ghost. Obake.
Anybody need the lighter?
Bake a cake. CBS Slack had
We
a
need
lot of
Ro-
reading and
we
paperwork
have
today.
Ronald.
Oh, that's right. Are you so excited? You're so excited.
Ronald McDonald. Someone has to put in more lighters.
Whoops. Whoopsies. Whoopsie doodles.
Wait,
Okay. We have Ronald Gayton. That means that we could have
do you
Ned.
have a lighter too? Oh, yeah, you do. I only saw one.
We
What
didn't
the
have
hell?
Ned last game, right? Let's do start a prediction. Will we have Naked Ned? Yes, no, maybe
the-
so. Butcher Daddy. I gotta turn off.
Put down
that.
the lantern. I can.
Okay,
I could,
something-
turn it on for you.
Something really weird is happening. My followers thing is going like up and down. Like it's like it literally just like went up. Like
There
it
you
just skyrocketed up and then it
Thank
skyrocketed
you.
down. But it's not saying I have any new followers. Gaga? Are you still here? I hate to call you out. I don't know. I don't know what is happening right now. I'm starting to worry after everything that was going down earlier. Okay, alright, get your ghost guesses in, friends! Exclamation point G, guess, or ghost! What do you think we will have? Alright, I'm just gonna forget about it for right now. It's fine. It's fine. I have not seen that happen before. Me either.
Sky, you
It's-
better not get me killed.
Okay, that's awful.
That is awful. That's a Tangia. What happened earlier? I'll text you. Wait, hold on. Is my Discord still going off like crazy?
Oh, I thought it was just one person.
No. No, and then I started getting messages on Discord. Okay, alright, let's go in there. Let's go fuck around and find out on prison. It'll be great. It'll be fine.
Sissy, are we allowed to go in?
Yeah, go ahead, of course. Of course, always. You never have to wait for me. If you wait for me, you'll be waiting for hours. Don't wait for me. Man, Phantom with the Phantom. Let's see here. Wolves with the Wraith. Alright, let's go in. Let's go see. I can't use my other thing too with this new program because it was just capturing the thing as well. So I'm sorry, you guys are gonna have some darkness when we go into it. I still have to get used to this new version of OBS I have.
Right here.
Ugh, you don't have anything there. Boner? Where? What?
Right here, where? In the foyer.
Got it!
Waiting area, and we have
Got
some
it.
circle over here.
I got it. Hey, Sky. 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 I don't have a lighter. Do you have a lighter? Sky. 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 Do you have a lighter?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have a lighter?
Yeah.
Wait, Sky! Don't... No! Don't touch me! door and shut myself out. Thank you so much for the follow, friend. Welcome on in. How do I get my profile to put on my TikTok? What do you mean? We can talk about that off stream, lady. Welcome on in, follow the friend. My name is Izzy. Hi! I'm the slightly unhinged, highly captain mom who found her way to Twitch. I appreciate you being here. I like to ask new friends, what is your favorite color? And if you play Faz, what is your favorite ghost type? I'm trying to sort out and I'm so confused. It's okay. Uh-huh. Guy says he loves me. Uh-huh. Time to collect all the handcuffs. And we do not have Butcher Daddy or Naked Ned. What is up with all this no's? Who keeps voting no? Whoever keeps voting no, I need you to vote yes.
Okay.
Woohoo! I love the hee hee one. That's probably like one of my favorite things.
It's crazy how you're still alive.
I love it.
Well,
I love
used
that
the
one
5
so much.
second, 5 seconds grace period from the circle to go hide.
Where did I put the
Oh,
handcuffs?
Sissy was freaking out. No, no, no! What are you doing now?
Yeah, I heard her behind the door. Meanwhile, I was trying
Yeah,
to get the
'cause
door
it's
open.
in it. Normally when your toe bean is even in it, you get killed. It's okay, Alpha. I don't mind. If I minded, I wouldn't fuck around and find out with them. I need coffee. Coffee sounds amazing. I only have water. But coffee sounds so good.
Finally.
We had a good
That's
time.
annoying.
I
Drink!
assume you bring
Thank
a
you.
But nothing
magician.
we
Hi,
can do.
magician.
Damn,
I'm just
we're
gonna
still
go for it.
hunting.
And maybe Hood. Hi, Hood.
Tasha, which batch do you like better? Do you like the one that's of me, or do you like the one of Messy? I was like on the fence. I think they both came out really good. It was really hard to get them to work right for the badges. Guys, if you guys ever do badges, the badges like that, it is a pain in the butt. Like, it is straight a pain in the butt. I think it depends on my mood.
I just remember hearing her. Sky, no, what are you doing?
Cozy has to be you.
Wait,
Menace has to
Sky,
be
back
messy.
up, back up.
That's fair. That is honestly fair. That's so fair.
Nope, somebody else is gonna die soon.
Somebody else is going to die. We should probably follow the ghost, huh? We should probably go follow the ghost and see what the ghost is, right? We should be a good dead teammate, right? Right, guys? Should we be good? Oh, my Lanza. Oh, Tasha, that reminds me. You did 5 subs. What sticker did you want on my face? I can't believe I forgot to do that for you. I think I got so, you know. Thank you, Cushy. I hope you enjoy your lurk. Have a great day. I have the Hello Kitty stickers. I have the My Little Pony. And I have the smiley face. I like. It's fun. It's so frustrating because I need to be looking at OBS now. But when I go over to OBS, it's not showing me the stuff I need to see. The smiley face, what color? What color? And then where on my face? Or my shirt. I mean, I could do my shirt too. It might actually stick better on my shirt. Where would you like it? Stick me. Middle of the forehead. Why am I not surprised? Why am I not surprised? Bam. Did I do it? Right in the middle? Yay! It did. Now, Tasha, you have given enough subs this month. No more. You need your monies. Please take care of yourself. Okay? I love your face. But please take care of you. Ay, ay, ay. You're a cutie, Mama. I didn't say no. I didn't deny it. I just said you're also a cutie. Okay? Just saying. Just saying. Tasha! You're grounded. You're grounded, Tasha. He's asleep. Bye. Thank you, Tasha. Thank you for the gifted sub to Sheffy. Sheffy, please make sure you say thank you to Tasha. I think Sheffy had to go take care of the dog. Sheffy, make sure you say thank you when you come back. Let me update yours to 6. Thank you, Tasha. Seriously, Tasha.
I went to the second floor.
You need the money. You need money. No, because I'm already having a little bit of issues with lag. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. That's ah! Hi, Gannon. I can hear Tasha. Oh, you did a shout out again. Did they turn on the light? Thank you, Gannon, for the dick spur. How long have we been on for? 2 hours? Are you guys okay with a short stream today? I'll send a gif of me IRL in Discord. Let's do it. Worst migraine attack of my life? Oh no. Spyro, please take care of yourself. I'm kind of thinking maybe we'll do a short stream today, guys. Is that okay? Is everyone alright with that? Obviously, I'm going to do a few more games with them. But I'm kind of thinking like not our normal, like 4 hours. I do have to run ads, my friends, so please hang around. If not, that's fine as well. But I do run 3 minutes of ads. I will see you back then. Go get a coffee, get a drink, do whatever you need to do. And come back soon, hopefully. If you're not subbed to the channel, please don't sub. It's okay. Where's my ad button? I don't do anything anymore. I'm a bit better, just my eyes are burning and a little dizzy. Do you have a banana?
Yeah, where we were.
Do you eat a banana, Spyro? There we go. Alright, an ad should be running. I already did the coffee. I need to go get something else now. I'm glad. I'm glad you're alright. Hi, Mama Harley. How are you today? I'm honestly not gonna lie. I've been better. I've been better, Mama Harley. Okay, thank you. Glad to hear you're okay. That's good. We need okays, at least. Hi, love. Love, don't forget to get sugar. You need to get sugar so I can make you coffee. Thank you for collecting your coffee, love. You're not new! You're literally my husband! Yeah, but I miss you. He did get his motorcycle emote. I actually got him emotes on his channel now. Lark, I think I'm supposed to do something. Sorry, guys. See you later. Okay, it's okay, Spyro. Thank you so much for being here. I've heard great things about you, sir. He's a great man. He really is. I got so lucky with that man. 99 bottles of beer on the wall. 99 bottles of beer. Take one down, pass it around. Better! I need one more. I need one more! Pick, 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 pick. I remember sugar. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you remembering sugar so I can make you your own coffee. Ah! Mama's being chased by a rev! Hurry, light the smudge! We can start writing the obituary too. That's okay. We've got Kushi coming in with a Goryo. Mama?
Sorry, I'm here. I was muted.
Mama Z coming in with the Goryo as well. I need all the Goryos. Now Goryo Gaga's stuck in my head. All we need. Goryo Gaga. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to Land of Crazy and Coffee. I hope the ads didn't treat you too bad. Whatever you got, can you please share? I'd love to hear what your ads are like. Ads are such a fun way to break a story. Let's see here.
Let's hope
It's a very,
Yes.
Yeah.
it's a very tricky position because we can't put any crucifixes there.
Oh, there. Sky is explaining how it works with this the cell block. Thank you for the jump scare, Mama. Alright, let's see here. Okay, so they can't exactly see because they're probably gonna die because of how big the area is. Having only the 2 crucies makes it really hard to cover the entire cell block. So I don't know if they're gonna be coming back in. Oh! Hold on a second, guys. Sorry. Hold on. I just need a second. I'm sorry. Why don't you guys do a drop? Here, you could do a drop in the meantime?
Don't worry. CC, I hope you want company in the afterlife.
Okay, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm
Over,
back.
by the
Okay, sorry.
No, I'm gonna go get myself killed.
Alright, there we go. I'm back. Okay, let's get... I don't remember what I was doing.
No. It would be a waste.
Okay, what was I doing? I don't remember. Hi, Ty. Ah! I don't want to be in the bathroom with the ghost. Mama, do you have sound again?
So any luck with figuring out what it is?
I didn't even hear it, not even once. Because I was so far away from it. It never came close.
Oh yeah, that's right. We were gonna go see if we could see what the ghost was so we could help them. And then I got distracted.
He's the only one who actually heard
Hello.
like, the speed of it. And
Hello.
it's gone.
Did you die?
Let's. Yeah. I let
Like,
myself
like-
to get killed.
Doors open.
So we can observe it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was going to do it before, but then I just got distracted. I'm not even gonna lie, I was crying.
Oh my! Look at my pose.
You look so ratty. You're like, paints me like one of my French girls.
Yeah. Or please, you have the power. I'm gonna be yours forever against protection.
Die. I got my badge. Yeah. Let's go, mama.
Well, hopefully one of them will
Hi,
come,
Sassy.
come in.
I got your notebook. My butt. Don't put bananas in my butt. Told you several times before. Not a
My butt is
banana
not
door.
A banana door.
Don't
I
put
get
bananas
so
in my
lumped
butt.
up with bananas in my butt.
Don't put bananas in my butt.
and they're
What do you think
hoping
it
for
is?
us
I have
to
no idea.
investigate the ghost. Well, I heard that it was average speed. It didn't seem like it was boosting, so I would say it's not a Aswang. It was not.
Stop dancing in the
it's not
afterlife.
ideal.
I'm sorry. No, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know what it was.
that's,
I was going to listen to it, but then I'm not gonna lie. When I turned off the cameras and stuff, I was
Personally,
just crying for a little bit.
Personally, don't think it's a raid. Otherwise, it will teleport it to us either way. I want to
Why
see.
are you
Yeah,
tired?
it was definitely not fast.
I hope you can
I
have some
think,
like coffee or
for
something.
Moroi.
Sassy.
I don't know. It could be a Jin because it
Cute
never turned
banana.
off the power. It could be a Myling, which that
Hi,
would
Missy.
explain why I couldn't hear it.
Oh, that would make sense. Thank you, Missy. I just got home from work. Oh, that's fair. That would be very tiring. Yeah, that makes sense. How was your stream, Missy? Did you have a good stream? Were your games good? Hold on, let me get you a shadow. Oh, it's not working. Are you having issues with OBS? Want me to head in and get Trigger Hunt? It was chaos as always, but loved it. Exactly. We love this cozy chaos. Was guessing Myling? I think so.
CC.
Yes. Hold on, Sky.
I can
Oh,
hear
hold
you,
on,
by
Sky.
the way.
Okay, sorry.
Oh,
I
they
told-
went.
I told the youngest daughter that I was not going to allow her to play today on the PlayStation because yesterday she spent 14 hours on it. 14 hours. No more today. It was like a glue. Ew. All right, exclamation
Oh,
point,
yellow.
drop. Drop it
Nice.
like it's hot. Land in the pool and you're going to pick our map. Pop it. like it's
Well,
hot.
one of you should have been inside. I told you that I was gonna go kill myself.
Weak numbers?
Like a loo.
Yeah.
What do you mean weak number?
Wow, you're pretty.
Wow, Alpha.
What?
I took a screenshot. I will send it to you later.
Oh my god. Speaking of screenshots.
Phantom!
Hands in my butt. I told you a million
How
times
much
before.
does 50 gifts cost?
Oh my god!
A lot of money.
Oh my god!
Like 500, I think? No, no.
Oh my god,
no.
Phantom!
250. Sorry, I think it's 250.
What? Thank you so much, my friend!
Put it in rubles.
Okay, let's see here. Let me go say to everyone. Oh, Samara. Oh, you guys get to pick my pizza. Something done. Bulia Blush, Katani, Ali, Rewash, Monkey Luck, Bubble Guns, Any, Ravena, Nulk, Kit, X Death, Abby, Optic, Ass of Kin, Shovel, Zivira, Kelly. I don't know who these people are. Terror, Sybil, Leary, Sir, Magician, Cece, Am Cool. Wow, he got
Google
one.
says $300.
Interesting. Load Cake, Lupin, Lunar Cat, Asturias, Mathis, Chaotic, Natural,
If it's tier
Mom
1,
Goblin,
300 apparently.
Black Goat, Sassy, Ellery, Valerie,
Oh, right.
Omni,
Yeah,
People
that's
Need,
correct. Yeah, 'cause it
Rain,
says
Can
it
I take
costs-
over
Violet,
the stream?
costs
Momo,
$6.
Blow, Wiggly, Tattoo, Ganon, and Cottonmouth, and Lily. You guys have all been gifted a sub. Please say thank you. I clip CC jaw drop. That is definitely a clip. That is definitely a. Oh my god! Phantom! Thank you, Phantom. I appreciate you, my dude.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god. Oh my goodness.
I can like only. I mean, the only like.
Thank you.
thing
Thank you so much,
that
friend.
happened to things. I mean, nothing is good about it at all. But Duolingo.
Oh.
knowledge.
Oh my god, you guys are gonna have to pick my
Pay
pizza.
attention to a streamer.
And Twitch doesn't give me ads.
Sorry.
I
That
was-
was a
I
lot
was
of
gonna-
subs.
I was asking, can I take over for a second?
Yeah,
Because
sure. Go right ahead.
there is one sentence I always want to say.
What?
Explanation mark drops. Who drops in CC special poll gets to decide which map we're gonna go.
Jesus
Yes,
Christ,
exactly what Sky said. Exclamation point drop. Pick your favorite email. And if you land in my pool, you're gonna pick where we go. Phantom, where am I writing your name? Pick anywhere for me to write your name. That was funny. Good job, Alpha. Or good job, Sky. That was hilarious. You've always wanted to do that? You could have asked me before. I would have let you say it. I don't
Well,
mind.
I don't want to intrude in someone else's stream because I already
No.
got several sentences based on other streamers that I have more colorful personality than them, so I just hold it hold it in.
No. Guy, you know I love your face. That's not okay. That would no. No, no, no. Badge has been acquired. Your choice. Okay. Let me see here. Let me go to this one. Okay, let's do.
Bananas in my
Alpha?
butt.
Yes.
Okay, we have there. Okay.
3, 2, 1. Don't put bananas in my butt.
Oh my god.
Bananas in my butt.
I'm not gonna be able to write it like this. I'm gonna write it so bad. Hold on, let me try with this one.
If you have so much prestige, do you just do 0 evidence, 0 sanity every day for like 50 games?
My marker is not working.
No. I was grinding APOC mostly.
That's worse.
I think I wrote it too big.
I also was away, but I also was away probably for a month and a half, something, when the game was botched.
Just like lips. Just
Honestly,
get lipstick. No.
I took a break of Phasmo in March, and I
My-
came back once in a
my
while.
collection
How's that look?
complete.
And that's about it. I'm just watching Twitch
Does that work?
every day instead of playing. But it's just some little things that like and stuff. And then
Oh, yeah.
this happened, so I didn't play. I was watching it from a side.
I haven't even watched, to be honest. I was mostly lurking because I was so mad that they botched the game so much. I was just
There we go.
supporting the,
Is that
the
good?
streamer, but I was never actually watching the game.
Is that good?
I always watched Insim, and then after the game was bugged, Insim stopped playing for a month, so I had no one to watch.
Yeah, I even started. I
Perfect.
stopped before that as well.
Okay.
I looked away from the Twitch. What the fuck?
Cece,
Yes.
don't put bananas in my butt.
But
No, don't put
no,
bananas
don't
in
put
my
bananas in my butt. My butt is
What
not
is on
a
your
banana
face?
door.
Banana door.
God.
It's Phantom's name. So if you gift,
This is what happens when two people with ADHD get together.
if you gift 20 subs or more, I write your name on my butt. And I doubt anyone else will do it, so I just wrote Phantom's name over my entire face, basically.
Oh, also, I forgot to tell both of you that I also have ADHD. So if I ignore
it's
you,
20
I
or
don't
more.
do it on purpose. I just got distracted very easily.
What happened?
That's fine, no worries.
I have schizotypal.
I don't have a
but,
tip page
basically
anymore.
It means, it just means
Gosh,
I'm
I came back and I was
quirky
gifted a sub.
without
Yes.
without hallucinations. Or,
Yes,
like,
Sheffy, you were gifted a sub from
very little
Tasha.
Yeah, this is why pretty much why me and Sissy got to get along so well.
Yeah.
Because we're both ADHDers.
What? Me? ADHD? No.
No. What is
No.
that? Slander.
Slander, he said.
Never. No. Got my badge. Whoop, whoop. Let's go. I love to see you guys getting the
Is it-
badges. I hope you guys like them.
Do you like
Yes.
do you like my badge? The pink flamingo.
I do like the pink flamingo.
Yeah, I
Of
got
course,
it.
what
I
happened?
got it when I saw you with the pink flamingo.
That was so much fun. I was so worried about doing that one. I was so worried about that. I was like, oh
It
my
was
god, this
great,
is
don't
so
worry.
weird.
It
Glad
was
you
great.
guys liked it. That's all that matters, is that you guys like it. I'm really not too worried about embarrassing myself at all. Is it on Discord, Ty? They didn't come for anyone else, did they?
No one
Oh.
dropped in the pool.
Ty is there? Ty.
Aw.
Okay, let me say something to Ty. Hello, princess.
Oh, thank you, Ty.
Honestly, no, and I like just like for a fraction of a moment.
Do you really want me to do that,
I
Ty?
felt a little bit.
Oh, hold on. I had it turned off because I don't like. I mean, I guess it makes sense over like with what you're saying. Like that does make sense. Hold on. This thing never sees the light of day anymore. But only because I love you, Ty. Yes, I know they're part of Razor. I know! I know! You don't gotta tell me. Where is it? I gotta find where it is.
Yeah, that's right, PCG. You better not piss me off.
How about we
Let me
do
see
the
here. I have to
assignment?
turn it back on. I don't even have it on anymore, so like I literally have to turn it on. Okay. There you go, Ty. But like I will get you your bag. Whatever is better for your channel overall. I don't want to encourage it in chat in case that messes with other incentives and stuff you had. It should work. Did it not work? Hold on. Let me see here. I don't use this one anymore. Settings. It is connected. Oh, there we go. Okay, now try it. Sorry, I forgot to unmute that part. The only thing that sucks is then you don't get the thing. Like, I would want you to get the other badge. Because you get the other badge from Messi. There it goes. Are you doing the 1 day or 3 day TwitchCon tickets with Gaga? I would just be doing 1 day. Yeah, I would just be doing 1 day and then I'll go down and visit them. No, Sheffy was asking me.
Oh,
Okay, there we
are
go.
you?
Yeah, Gaga said she was gonna kidnap me if I don't.
Oh, and bring you to Disneyland, to where it's a small world, so you can be her wife.
So you can be her wife. She has a wife.
Yeah, she already has a wife, but I'm pretty sure her wife wouldn't mind sharing.
Well,
Okay, so I think
honestly-
nobody landed in
honestly,
the pool, so
Gaga has
everyone pick a map.
harem.
That's true.
Everyone pick a map. Pick a map. We're gonna play map roulette. Fair, fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind driving down there, but I just it's a lot. And then I have to get babysitters. Babysitters suck.
Well, actually,
Sunny
I wanted to
Meadows.
ask, how old are your kids?
I will not say that.
Oh, all right. Totally.
I would before, but just currently right now I don't feel safe to say that.
Okay.
Yes, I met everyone in game, but I will do that one. No, don't put bananas in my butt.
Video is still not the game.
Huh?
My butt is not a banana door.
The stream video is not the game, but your face.
Oh, thank you. I forgot. Oh, my brain
don't
is
put bananas
broken.
in my butt. I told you a million times before.
Thank you. Thank you, Topaz.
By the way, I'm clam slamming Sissy again.
Yeah.
Hey, get back here. Where you going?
To throw balls at you. You're not supposed to join in on this.
I have a
I'm
wife.
running.
I have a wife.
How many bananas can Sky fit up his butt? A lot.
Oh my god.
A lot.
No, don't put bananas in my
Lot,
butt.
Sheffy.
You and
No,
Gaga
don't put
need
bananas
to
in my
stop
butt.
asking these questions.
Oh, by the
I
way,
wasn't
I
me.
don't know
It
whether
was
you were there.
Shelby.
Every single time I join Gaga, I sniff her butt.
Oh my god.
Why?
Sky,
Because
what
I
the
have
heck?
it turned up high. Sky has a banana
Yeah,
door tie.
yeah, and
What
also,
did Sheffy just get auto-modded for?
yeah, Chef has a
Bananas
thing with
in the butt.
Aldermalt.
Yeah, so do I hate auto-mod, especially in Gaga's chat.
Well, okay, to be fair though, Gaga and I both have the same level for the auto mod because of the shelves. So if you get stuck in things for Gaga's stream, more than likely you'll get stuck over here too.
Hmm. It's a good thing
For
I don't say
the
any naughty things in your chat.
I know. You guys are so well
But
behaved.
but still,
Because of shelf. The shelf. The shelf tie. Both Gaga and I are on the we're both on the Pride Guild shelf. So like there's
But
if you
I'm
go to the front
also
page
spicier than
and then you go
Gaga.
down the front page, you'll see like Pride, like the Pride shelves. Like it's called a shelf, but it's literally just like you click on it and then you go there and then you'll see us. So we have to have automod at such a specific thing. It's fair setting a tie. I just have an ongoing war. He is not behaved. He's just faking it. Oh, now he's being behaved. He's behaved. I don't know because I always use mobile fare.
Oh,
We lost one.
Sissy, do you know the new stuff about
About what? About putting bananas in your butt?
okay.
Alpha. Do you know the Muffin Man? The Muffin Man? The one on Drury Lane? Hi. Let's see, do we have Gorbies? I don't see them. I don't see them! We don't have Gorbies. And we've got Jack. We've got Jack, so that means we cannot have a Banshee and we cannot have a Diane. And it looks like we have upper room to the left. Yeah. Yeah, that's left, right? No,
Yeah,
hospital
we
wing.
have
Ooh,
no
that's
wing.
downstairs. Okay. All right, let's see here. Let's grab this. My dog just burped. There. I'd burp too. I'm gonna take this. Alpha.
Yes.
Alpha. Are you about
Yes.
to yell at Z?
Yes, I am.
I thought so. I just knew it was happening. Hey, Alpha.
Mm-hmm.
Nose.
Stop picking my nose, Cece.
I could see every little detail. I could see your
Oh my
hair.
god.
I could see your cheeks. You got a blackhead right
Mm.
there.
Okay, Cece.
Wait, is this tier 1? No, okay, let's go. Calls him like I see him. I'm not faking anything. Slander. Boop the nose. I like to poop Lily's nose. And now JC will come up to me and he'll go, boop, 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 and he'll boop the nose. I need to get, oh, I should so get a video of him doing the boop, and then I should put it when you guys do a boop. If you guys boop somebody, it should play that sound. The boop. Casey's little boop. No slandering my name, Z. Did we find the bone? Found a book. I found a book. My dog hates her nose being booped. I mean, fair. I find it annoying too.
Easy, we found it. Orbs.
1, yes. 2, or no.
It's the stairs where all the clutter is. You will find it.
Yes.
Where is it? What are you doing, girl? Girl, what are you doing?
I don't know where my devil horns are. Where'd my devil horns go? I don't know where they went to. Oh no, I was gonna put my devil horns on. I can't find them. I can't find them. I encourage it. It's fine. What's the worst that could happen? I put my camera. How long until I die? Because I'm gonna die, right? That's what's gonna happen? Wait, my camera! Where'd my camera go? Did Sky, did you take my camera?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's a yes. Someone will, probably. It's gonna be me. Every time. Watch. Oh gosh, now Stream Elements is gonna do that. That's why I have Stream Elements off. Go take a selfie with the ghost. I wish you could. On the other side, you can. You can with the other side. Hold on, I have to go back over and turn that off. I don't like Stream Elements. Not gonna lie. I started with Stream Elements like a long time ago. Like when I first started streaming, I used Stream Elements a lot. But then I stopped because I found the other things and I like the other ones better.
I used my crucifix.
I like the other ones better. Okay, let's see here. It's gonna be me. I'm probably gonna die. I always do. The queen of fuck around and find out and then dying. Go in there, Sky. Sky.
Go in there, CC.
Why did you want to go in?
I forgot to take the second crucifix.
That's okay.
Oh, she's not dead. Huh.
Nope, I'm not.
I swear to God,
I
Cece.
almost lost my soul.
I'm sorry, Topaz. I'm sorry. But that was funny.
I know it was funny, but that's for me.
I'm sorry.
I mean, at least, like, I kind of thought, like, oh, well, the update where the ghost locks you in with itself and not the whole house. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go with you this time, okay?
Okay, but we used to have a crucifix there.
Yeah, we used to until I played with the mirror.
Yeah. Also, I have like 400 hours in the game, but I have a question.
Wait, where was it? What was the ghost room?
Where the clutter is.
Okay. Where?
Actually, yeah, here it is. Close the door.
Oh, we got bread. It's cold in there. It's chilly. I would like to take a selfie with the ghost. I wish they would let us. I really do. That would be fun. Oh, we got freezing temps.
Okay.
We got freezing.
Freezing and orbs. We'll have freezing
And orbs. Is it gonna be a Mimo? It's gonna be Mimo. We can have a Hantua, an Onryo, a Rev, or a Yurei, or a Mimo. Get your ghost
sit
quickly.
Because it never works for me.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm just gonna end ghost guessing in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bam. Topaz, you shouldn't touch that light like that. That's because you like to flick it. Oh. Are you here? Where are you? Can you talk to me? Can you play with me? Do you want to play with me? Come on, let's go have fun. Damn. I'm. Wait, is it Ned? Was that Ned? Ned! Take me instead!
Yep, she died.
I know, I heard.
Oh.
It was
Shouldn't have
Ned.
backed out of the room.
It was Ned. It's
No,
Ned.
we got dots.
And dots. That's a
It's
Dio.
a Yurei.
No, that's not Dio. That's a Yurei. Ugh, I don't want a
Alright,
Yurei.
I'm getting out of here.
Time to go. We'll go get Topaz back for the next one.
If you want to take a picture of the dead body,
I'm okay. Let's just go get him back. I always feel bad when people are dead, even though I like to mortar them. On game, in game, Twitch, in game.
Wow, PCG, why did you piss me off?
Hold on, let me switch over here for a second. Holy crap, Phantom, that means you just did 100 subs in like 2 weeks. Oh my god, Phantom. I'm back, guys. Feeling better. Took a pill for the dizziness. I'm glad you're better. You could also take ginger. I love to eat ginger. Oh my god, Phantom. It just, like, the realization just, like, fully hit. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. And you guys get to pick out my pizza. I'm nervous.
Why, for
Alpha?
the pizza?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, hold on. Let me see here. Does it have... I don't even know if it has that stuff. Please tell me it doesn't. Papa John's. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. Okay. Original crust. Do that. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me pick one. Okay. I have to figure out how to make it too so you guys can't see the the thing. Alright, let's go this way. And then... Okay, so it does crust flavor, cut, piece, meats. Okay, let me look at the meats. Don't have it.
What else do we have? I know
They do have it.
Freezing.
Oh god. Oh god. I'm in
Dots,
trouble.
freezing, and orbs.
I didn't
They
see
do have it.
dots there. But probably because I smudged it. Yeah, sure.
You want a hug, CT?
Oh, that's even better. That's even better.
What are you...
They have
Stop
anchovies,
picking my
Phantom.
nose.
I want to pick your nose. Aw, Sky's hugging us. It's a Sky sandwich. You're being sandwiched, Alpha.
Is this what you call a what do you call it? A cuddle puddle or whatever?
Oh God, I don't know.
It is something more because you're inside me.
Oh my!
Get in the truck.
Thumbs up. No, so what happened, Spyro, while you were gone? We hit the amount of subs. We hit the amount of subs for you guys to pick out my pizza. So I'm gonna have to set up a day for you guys to pick out what toppings go on my pizza. And my thought, what I was going to do was just basically go like this. It doesn't say where I'm located, so that's okay. But, whoa, that's freaking out. Why is OBS doing that? So I was thinking
Okay.
of doing is just going like this.
Was that our last game, or do we do one more?
We could do one more.
Yeah, I think it was our. Oh, really?
Oh, wrong
Oh,
one.
okay.
Yeah, we could do one more. Let me come over to this one.
Alpha,
It's
I
like
sent you
this.
something.
So I'll go like this. This.
Look how pretty you
For
are.
me.
No, sure.
For me. And then you guys are gonna pick out my stuff, and they do have pineapple. Ugh.
I need to send these to Z.
And it does have anchovies. Ugh.
Cece, stop
Oh,
gagging.
Can you choose Brinza cheese?
Different cheeses? They have extra cheese, 3 cheese, or Parmesan. Like that.
Man, I don't have Brinza. You have to try Brinza one day in your life.
Boom. We'll have to set up a day for you guys to pick out my pizza. Yeah. Hi, Noir. Don't put pineapple. It's not me. It's you guys. Wait, is this the gift that I got from Throne? Wait, hold on. Somebody, Kimmy got me a gift on Throne. Let me, wait, why does this look all different? Doesn't look right. Something's wrong here. Okay, let me go over here. Okay, ready? I think this is the gift from, Kimmy. Not right now, John. Let's see, let's open it up. What do you guys think?
And by the way, Alpha, one of Sissy's boobs is popping out of your jacket.
It's the costume, guys.
Of course.
Guys, we're gonna have a minion stream. It's the minion costume. We're going to be minions. I see you. Banana.
I just didn't understand why this say I'm banned.
Oh, probably because of what you were saying.
Well, he was.
Okay, all right. Where are we going? We're going to nails. I don't mind nails. I like nails. Nails is actually pretty fun. Oh wait, did we end the ghost?
We're gonna go to Smelly Nelly.
And then let me do actual ghosts. Hi, Cassie. What ghost did we have? We had a Uri. All right, exclamation point, guess, G or ghost. Get your ghost guesses in. Okay, yeah, I can't go back over to that because I was freaking out. Okay, let's go. I can't believe we're gonna have
God, Alpha, I can't stop
I
looking
got
at it.
Oh, Z clipped it. Z has it saved. Oh, you're
Z clipped what?
The inside of you.
Oh, of course.
Of course, it's gonna live
You
forever
look
now.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
It crashed? Like for everybody? Wait, what?
Oh, it's clipped. Yeah, she still has to. Okay.
It hates my face.
Oh, you're even here. This way, it's Alpha.
What?
Sissy's inside you
Yeah.
again, and you're with red hair.
Ty, thank you so much, Ty.
Personal space, CC.
Hey, girl, hey. Hi, Alfred. Alpha,
Yes.
I have a husband.
I have a wife.
I turned it in Discord so Twitch doesn't throw a fit. Yeah. You're not. Wait, what? Why aren't you? Hold, I need to fix that. I thought I gave that to you. Is it like everyone that I gave it to not getting it?
Oh, she
Is this
shared
like
in
an
a
issue?
different. That's why.
My thing is just like totally messing up right now. Okay, there we go. Here we go. Ty, where would you like your name? Where would you like your name, Ty? Ma'am. What? What'd I do?
No,
What'd I
it's
do?
not this.
Why did the diamond just show up? Because you deserve it. You're a good friend, and you were supposed to already have it. I don't know why my thing is freaking freaking out. I love you.
Oh, the men's room.
Ty,
Okay.
Ty, where do you want your name? Wait. Where's my marker? Where's my
Of course,
marker?
that's where you put it.
Can you just draw a little asterisk between your eyebrows, or is that too much? Like what?
All right,
What do you
I'm
mean?
ready.
What do you mean? On your chin, actually. I don't want to put a dot on your forehead. Shine bright like a diamond. Okay, let me see here. Ready? Use my handy dandy camera. Like a little butthole. Oh my god, I'm not doing that. And we're 2 away from 1900. Holy crap. Ready? Here we go.
In the boss's room.
What? This happened?
It's in the boss's room.
Ah, okay. Okay, got you. Okay, I understand. I understand the assignment.
The manager's room? Yeah, the manager's office.
Well, that can be arranged if CC does things. I'm a Thay in my own guessing. Wait, what am I doing? Are we still talking about the diamond?
It's not a car
I don't
vault,
know.
and I found the bone. It's in the red
Who is
hallway.
it? Hi,
So that's
Ventus.
the
Welcome on
manager's
in.
circle. It blew out the firelight, and then it
Wait, what did
evented
they
on
say?
me.
We have summoning circle?
Yeah, and that event told me it's not a core mode.
Summoning. Hatsui. Hatsui. Get your ghost guests in. That's a vibe. Jen. Wait. Hold, I am screenshotting that. That is the whole screenshot. I think Mom is just trying to get a thing. I hate it here.
Why do you
Hi,
have
Sky.
as much? Ma'am?
What do you mean?
Ma'am?
Coffee? Or, I mean, drink? Dr. Pepper? Dr. Pepper? Do you talk to me about my Dr. Pepper? I don't know what's happening. Well, Z, I hope you don't actually hate it here because I love your face.
Ma'am?
Yeah?
Look at the pictures.
Oh, sorry.
We already know what the curse object is.
I do not. I really love it here. I'm glad. Stop. Stop it. I don't want Ring Around the Rosies. Please. It's a female ghost, yes. I'm feeling cold, cold, cold.
Oh.
Do we do the pizza today, guys? Or do you want to do a pizza a different day? We could do it today or a different day. It's up to you guys. You guys are the ones that gifted the subs. This is your guys' thing. So, I feel like I'm in danger. I don't like it. Friday? We could do Friday. We could absolutely do Friday, yeah. Oh my heck, it's a hot mess cutie person! How are you today? Hi, David. I hope you're having a great day. Happy anniversary, ma'am. Thank you so much. I don't know why, like, Twitch has it set for today, but it's actually tomorrow. So, like, tomorrow we're doing the merch giveaways. Tomorrow we're doing the, Oh, that's another giveaway, too. I have to do another giveaway. We're doing the merch giveaways tomorrow, and we're doing the video tomorrow that I made. Can't do pizza today. It's Taco Tuesday. Honestly, I've been over tacos. We've had so many tacos lately. You know what I'm saying? Just had quite a bit of them. Where am I going right now? I don't remember what I was doing. A wild Garchomp appears! Exclamation point, Pokey check, see if you have it. And if you don't, Pokey catch with the ball of your choosing. It's raining tacos. My streamer bot does not like me anymore. That's the son of the police. Woo! Let's go. I got you. I got you, Ventus. I got you. I see you. I see you. Trying to get away with your little incident report there. Can I light? Booger butts. I'm all out. No diamond for me, Cece. I see how it is. I'm sorry, Alpha. Are you guys hearing them? Because I'm not hearing them. Like, at all. I can't believe we're 2 away from 1900. This doesn't feel real. Why? Why would we say to run? I know! Pedro, 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 Pedro. Pedro, Pedro.
Pedro, Pedro,
Thank you for the Pedro.
You see?
Guy.
Group dying. Do you want a group dying?
I mean, that does kind of sound kind of fun. It's the
Yeah,
child.
Let's go. Yeah.
The child's
Uh,
potato sack child
if
just
you
ran
don't,
into you.
if you don't want to die, you better get out.
I mean, I don't mind.
We're gonna do group
I was
dying.
lighting the circle. Thank you
Yeah,
so
let's
much.
go.
Welcome on in, friend.
Yeah,
Alright, let's
let's
go
go.
do it. Let's go.
re-
Let's go.
and
Go!
Light it entirely.
Is your name? It's supposed to be like Avalanche? Like Avalanche? Welcome on in, friend. Happy Tuesday. I hope you're having a great day. I already lit them and I can't light anymore because I'm all out of Santa titties.
Whoever doesn't want to die, better leave. I'm already in the truck.
I hope you get a demon and a blood moon. Oh, Alpha.
Thank you for telling me because
Wait, there's one left. I'm all out. I already lit the rest. Thank you so much for the happy affiliate anniversary. It means a lot to me.
It doesn't let me. I don't have sanity.
No. Alpha. Oh, Alpha.
Yes, Cece. What are you doing?
Do you want to light a candle? Come on, let's see the coast.
Absolutely not.
Well, shucks, Sky. Now what do we do?
Ooh, wait.
Booger butt.
Susie, I'm here for you. Come and take me.
What evidence do we have too far? So far, we have ghost guess or
Susie.
we have ghost
Susie.
writing. Was it only ghost writing, Alpha, or Sky?
No, ghost riding UV and
UV.
dots.
Oh, I'm not saying it. All right, ghost guessing ending in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And dots. It's an Abombo. It's Obombo the Abombo. I saw the dots. I remember that now.
I'm taking the other cruci.
Boo! Sorry, Sheffy. Did you miss it? I got one! Guy? Guy, where'd you go? I see you.
Susie, I'm here. Take me. Ah!
All the hugs to Z. Take my egg! I can't see the little shit. Dang, I was marking down the evidence so I couldn't guess. I'm sorry, Ventus. Dead alert. I am dead. I am dead. I died. I died. I was trying to throw my eggs at it. It didn't want my eggs. I mean, to be fair, I don't want them either. Whee! Boop. I love how they turn to cheese. Does anyone else love how they turn to cheese? Maybe it needs some seasoning. What the heck? That's so loud! Who did that and why? What was... Oh my gosh, get in. That was so loud. I was so confused. Okay, so Friday we will do the pizza. Okay, so make sure you guys are here so you guys can pick what goes on my pizza. Literally any single thing you guys want will go on it. Okay? And then we'll see how it goes. I'm not happy about that. Oh, thank you so much, Gannon. Yes, exclamation point, enter to get yourself into the giveaway. This, I think, is going to be my last game, and then we're going to hop on off. We did make it to the full 3 hours. I wasn't sure I was going to. I still don't kind of feel great. But we did well. So, get yourself in. Why can't let me drop it?
I would use the Wingardium Leviosa to revive you.
Actually, let's do that right now. We're gonna do that right now while we're waiting. Alright, let's see here. Okay, so it says we got 10 people in for the giveaway. Come on, guys. Exclamation point, enter. Get yourselves into it. This is so cute.
CC,
I wonder, how am I gonna do this, though?
I see you. You're right here. I can sense you.
Oh, I have the gloves! Why did that scare me? I have the minion glove! Ah! Thank you, Moo. Look, it comes with gloves, guys. I'm gonna be a minion! I'm so excited to be a minion. Bananas in my butt. No, don't put bananas in my butt. Does it work? Don't put bananas in my butt. Don't put bananas in my butt. Now? Does it work okay? 400 subs and CC will do the Minions costume while playing a super scary game. Yeah, I need you guys to decide what game. Are we gonna play Madison or Ludo? Pulls back the lever and hits 54 coffee points. Let's go, Moo. Escape the Backrooms. Good, scary game. I've played the Backrooms, though. I like that one. Don't put bananas in my butt. My butt is not a banana. It won't let me drop the steak.
We have some time. You can take a picture.
The steak is forever in my hand. Steak sounds good,
Okay.
actually. Oh, I got one. Yeah, I'm thinking
I already
between
did,
Luto
don't worry.
and Madison. Is this game trying to kill me? Actual title.
CC somewhere.
Another
with
one's good.
us.
Thank you so much for the follow, friend. Oh, that means we're one away from
Yeah, she's
1900.
right next to me.
We are one away from 1900. Let's go. Thank you so much. I do want to ask you, I'd like to get to know every single person who comes in. So I want to know, if you play fast, what is your favorite ghost type? And if you don't play fast, what is your favorite color? And thank you for being here. Why does that look so bright? Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're so close.
Your right hand certainly seen worse days.
Yeah, it looks like it's
like
broken.
lizard. When we drink, we do it right. Get lizard.
Natural to
The right and the right, like lizard, like a lizard, like a lizard. And so fly like a lizard, like a lizard, like a lizard.
And now the best part is Sissy's dead, so we can keep
It
her
won't let me
here
stop the
forever and
pre-roll.
ever.
It won't let me stop the rolls. I play fast,
Yeah,
and my
she-
favorite
she
ghost
seems-
is
she
a
seems to be okay with it.
Cormos. Ooh, you like the blind ghost? I'm really loud, so I don't like the blind ghost because it still kills me.
Sissy,
Welcome on in, friend.
we're keeping
Yes.
you here forever and ever and ever.
But the steak is stuck to my hand. Maybe I could go pick up something else then. If I bring you donuts, will you let me leave? Will you like me for donuts? A donut. Is there a donut over here? Let me see. Take my steak and give me the donut. Oh my god! What? Well, how am I able to pick up so many stuff? Wait, what is happening? I was just able to pick up like 6 things at one time. Fast?
Take them one by one.
Wait, what is happening right now? How did I throw it? Fast! Kinetic! Kinetic, I am deeply concerned right now. What the heck? What is that?
Cece, I was just saying, Alpha. No wonder the prices here are so low. The service is definitely awful.
Hey! My service is amazing! Thank you very much. I make the best steak, Steakamus, and I got the best donuts you have ever tasted. I mean, donuts are always good.
Yes.
Exactly. Alright, I'm gonna snooze it. I can snooze ads now. Let's go. Why does that look so bright right now? Ever since I turned it down, it looks all weird. I have to figure out what's going on. At least it didn't do it again for the glitching, right? We have not had any more issues with lag.
Obamba.
Oh, it's a Bam Bam.
All right, my friends, remember, exclamation point, enter, get yourself into the giveaway. And then here is my socials. If you're not following on the socials, can you do so, please? All right, ready? All right, thank you guys for playing. This is going to be it for me. I'm going to do the giveaway, and then I'm going to hop off.
Cece.
Yes, Guy.
I love you, face.
I love your face, Guy.
Thanks for the game, Cece.
Don't put the bananas in my
Thank
butt.
you, Alpha. Thank you, Sky. Thank you,
Stop the
Topaz.
donuts in my butt.
Ellie first.
Cece, why didn't
It
Cece? Why
was a
didn't I get a
blast.
diamond?
What's that? Diamonds? What's that? What's that? All right, ready, guys? Drum roll, please. And our winner is Moo. Let's go, Moo! 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 You won, Moo! You did! You did win! I'm gonna write your name down right now. You won, Moo Moo! Today's winner is Moo Moo. What did I win? A $5 gift card to Steam. Alright, thank you so much, guys, for being here. I know we had a little bit of a dodgy day. We had a little bit of a dodgy day, and I do apologize for that. I was trying really hard to not let it bother me. But the fact of the matter is it does. So, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry if my attitude was off. And all those other things. But we're going to be back tomorrow. We're gonna be back tomorrow and we have a video that I have made for y'all. Some of you will be included into the video, so make sure you're there to watch. Friday we will be doing the pizza and we'll be playing a games. I don't know what game we're playing yet on Friday. It's gonna be all up to you guys. Everything this week is all up to you. You guys are the ones that have made it possible for me to continue doing this. You guys light up my life. And I appreciate every single one of you here. So I really want to make sure that I can give that back to you guys. So thank you so much for being here, guys. I appreciate you. All right, let's go over to... I can't see my scenes anymore. OBS is acting up right now. Love you, Grumpy. Okay, let's go over to stream is ending, maybe. If it'll let me. Okay. Okay, I see you. Good night, David. Thank you to all the follows. Thank you to all the subs. Those are a lot of subs. I'm not going to read every single one. If you could grab the raid message, I want to raid out with as many people as possible. So let's go show all the love to somebody. We just went there. I think I'm just going to do a friend today because I feel like I need to do it safe. I need to be safe right now. I'm not new here. You're not new. All right, grab those raid messages. We're going to go over to Kai or Rez, depending on how you know her. So we're going to go give them some love. Grab that raid message. Start off strong. Remember to behave. Remember, in case no one has told you today, I love you. You are amazing. You are a good person. And you deserve the frickin' world, man. You deserve the world. All right, good night, guys. Love you. Peace out.